climate change a predicament or is it a problem? Yeah, because many of us do tend to treat it as a problem, and much of that language actually helps constitute climate change as a problem. And now, if you look at this kind of picture again, taken from the net, not drawn by me, it's one of those smiling, happy people trying to be encouraged to what we can do. And in some ways, this kind of framing tends to make it a problem that we can very much solve. What if it's actually seen as a predicament? That is, not something that is a problem, but something that, where we engage with it at the level of outcomes. There is a lot of, in fact, interestingly enough, there is a considerable discussion and debate about treating climate change as a predicament and not as a problem. One such reflection by somebody called Mark Goldthorpe. He runs something called Climate Culture, which is a web page. I'd urge you to actually look it up. So he says at some point, unlike a problem, however, a predicament doesn't have a solution, a fix, or an exclusive offer. Predicaments only have responses, often rule of thumb ways to minimize, share, and work with them. What I'm really getting at, and my pitch is that often climate change impacts are framed as technological problems of high science. And the social sciences and humanities often seem to be very supplementary to them. Take, for example, my favorite example, and sorry, this might be a bit simplified, but just to underline, the automobile problem. We're all familiar. I've been in Delhi, I stayed in Delhi for 15 years. We all know that automobiles are often framed as a problem. But if you were to frame it as a problem, this is how often solutions are perceived. More roads, more parking space, some way or the other to enable mobility and speed. So as a predicament, however, we really can understand that the car is actually a reflection of a deeper and more fundamental crisis of inequality and injustice. Once it's framed in that way as an outcome of a larger problem of inequality in society, then of course you respond to the question of the car very differently. It's seen fundamentally as an obstruction, as an obstacle to the larger idea of mass transport, of urban design and of public transport. There are two dimensions to the climate change challenge. One is adaptation and one is mitigation. You can often see that in many of these adaptation policies, there is this unwritten contest between livelihoods and lifestyles. So livelihoods is all about getting the marginalized, the relatively impoverished, the disenfranchised, getting them to adapt. But when it comes to lifestyles, urban people, cities, people like us, adaptation is posed as an opportunity. Mitigation is supposed to be decisions for governments. Yeah. And here you often see the bigger debates about what should governments do. So I should end by simply reiterating climate change and equity. We'll have to at some point take a call whether we want to treat it as a predicament, which means that a bigger role for the social sciences and humanities, and the fact that there are already underlying crises of inequality and injustice baked into how this debate is being formulated. And unless we open those black boxes, some people say Pandora's boxes, you're always going to fall short of actually providing a helpful diagnosis.